All right, Patrick, as we conclude Week 8, entering Week 9, we've got some pitchers who did pretty well this past week. Some that didn't. Let's talk about them. First up, we have Patrick Corbin.
Good name.
Yeah, how do you feel about Patrick?
Look, you have to roll with him. If you picked him up off the waiver wire, you're doing well right now. I mean, he's perfect on the season. I actually benched him on Monday when he threw a complete game shutout in Colorado.
Why'd you bench him?
Well, he's in Colorado. I didn't think it was going to be a good matchup. Looks like I was completely off on that one. Fortunately, I'm still having a good week pitching. But you have to ride him while he's going. One thing you'll notice with his advanced stats is that if you look at his pitch effects, his velocity's up, which is something that no one really expected when they saw him coming down through the minors. You know, he was a part of that Dan Herron trade where they got Tyler Skaggs back in return, and everyone thought that Skaggs was going to be the guy, but it turns out Patrick Corbin's the man from that trade, at least right now. So you have to continue to roll with him. He's probably a bit of a sell high right now, just because he's been so fantastic.
A bit of a sell high?
Bit of a sell high. I mean, I still think he's going to be all right for the rest of the season, but I don't think he's going to be a top 5 pitcher, maybe a top 20 pitcher. But if you can get top 10 value for him right now, you're better off selling him and taking your chances with a more established name.
Yeah, I know his metrics are very good. I think most people are more enamored with the fact he's 7-0 and stuff. And
they shouldn't
stuff
be.
Comes and goes. It could happen in his next 7 starts. You could pitch just as well.
Yeah, he could pitch even better and be 7-7 starts from now. So.
To me, he just came out of nowhere.
He was an okay prospect. I mean, he wasn't a top 10.
Well, this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is beyond belief. So there's something to be said to that where, you can't put too much stock in, like you said, the 7-0 start, and maybe he's just going through a hot 2 months, and it's going to turn the other way soon. I mean, he is 3rd in the league in strand rate. It's up around 90%. That's a number that's going to come crashing down soon enough. So even when he experiences a little bit of a blowback, and you get the Corbin owner who's panicked that he hasn't sold him yet, maybe that's a nice time to buy high, as I like to say, where it's a player who was a previous sell high with a bit of a blowback, almost like Chris Davis. It's beginning to happen, so the owner will let him go for probably less than he's worth just to get rid of him, to say he got something for him.
Is that a pitcher's ballpark?
Arizona? Yeah, it's a slightly above a pitcher's ballpark. Yeah, it's not a great hitter's park, but it tends to play more towards hitters than pitchers.
All right, well, if it's a pitcher's ballpark, let's talk about Brandon McCarthy. Now, I've got Brandon McCarthy.
I hope you held on to him.
I didn't play him this week. I haven't really played him at all.
Well, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, he's not lived up to what I thought he was going to be this year. He obviously had a great last outing. So how do you see Brandon going forward?
He's a guy whose advanced metrics kind of tell a different story than his actual ERA and stats do. His advanced numbers say he's pitched much better than the actual output, which would lead me to believe that he's in for a bit of a regression, but regression in a good way. Regression back to the mean where he's supposed to be. And again, in the National League, always a good thing, especially in the NL West, a great thing. The one thing that people said that really was going to hurt him was coming over from Oakland, a very good pitcher's ballpark, and he's an extreme fly ball pitcher, and the Coliseum in Oakland keeps a lot of those from going out of play. And with the huge foul territory and everything like that, the defense was able to make a lot of plays on the balls, where it's not going to be the same thing at Chase Field. But I will say, look, he's a top 50 pitcher for me. That means he should be on people's rosters. I know he's been dropped in a ton of leagues. He deserves to be owned.
Yeah, he started off very poorly. You say advanced stats. Now, that seems to insinuate or suggest that this is telling you what's going to come, as opposed to what? Retroactive stats?
No.
Which is what he actually did?
What he actually did is, we play with it. Advanced stats would be basically more predictive stats beyond RBIs. What does RBIs really tell you? Nothing. It tells you what someone's done. It's actually a great indicator of how well a player has played over a certain segment. But it doesn't let you know.
It tells you what they did. It doesn't tell you what they're going to do.
No, but the advanced metrics do. That's what I'm trying to say. A thing like FIP is an ERA predictor. It means it gives you the actual number of what's going on. And something like strand rate, for example. Strand rate, it evens out around 72%. If you can pitch around 80%, you're having sort of a lucky season. Because even the best pitchers, your Clayton Kershaw's, your Justin Verlanders, your Cliff Lee's, they're going to be around 72%. What makes them better is they just don't allow anyone to get on base. So if you have someone like Brandon McCarthy, or like we talked about with Patrick Corbin, someone who's up around 85%, 95%, somewhere around there, that number's just going to come crashing down. There's just no way for it to sustain itself. Over the past 3 years, no one's finished with an on-base or a strand rate higher than 82%. So
So these advanced stats give you a crystal ball and tell you...
No, but it's you have to play the probabilities. I mean, someone could sustain, especially for a pitcher, 200 innings is generally a large enough sample size, but there are outliers. Matt Cain was always the supreme outlier when it came to batting average of balls in play. Every year, it just looked like he was going to come crashing back to normalize, that number was going to fly up the other way, but it never happened. Now, that's one case. The 99% of other people, they went back towards the number. So you're weighing odds against each other. So if someone has a 5 ERA and a FIP of 2.5, chances are they're going to pitch a lot better in the next coming months. So I think it's a great indicator if you want to play the odds that way. So let's say you think there's an 80% chance that's going to happen. I think that's better than just arbitrarily guessing it's going to happen. What's been happening is just going to happen in perpetuity. It doesn't work like that.
So which Arizona pitcher do you want to have going forward? You want Patrick Corbin or Brendan McCarthy?
I'd rather have Patrick Corbin simply because of the strikeout rate. If there's one thing that McCarthy doesn't do, it's strike people out. I'm not huge on fantasy pitchers that pitch to contact. At least you know K per 9 tends to be a very steady stat. It's one that where ERAs and whips, they fluctuate based on strand rate, batting average of balls in play. K per 9 tends to be fairly uniform, so I'll always take the strikeout heavy pitcher over the contact pitcher.
Jerome Williams. What do you think about Jerome Williams?
Mediocre at best. I think he's playing in a good lineup right now with the Angels heating up. I think that's always a good thing. Angels Stadium, very good pitcher's park. That division itself with Houston in it, Seattle, even Oakland's come back down to earth a little bit.
Forgot Houston was in it.
Well, they're there. Their offense, not as terrible as people think, though. It's the Mariners you want to stream against, not Houston. It's their pitching that sucks, not their hitting.
Right.
But Jerome Williams, he's a nice filler. He's a great AL-only ad for mixed leagues. He's a guy you want to stream in and out of your lineup. He has no significant value, but he's not going to kill you if you put him in.
Justin Masterson. I liked him when he was in Boston. I thought they were going to give him a shot.
And he ended up getting swapped to the Indians for Victor Martinez. So yeah, worked out for Boston.
Yeah.
Victor was good.
Well, it worked out in some respects for...
it's starting to work out.
Victor got hurt. He was, But do you like Masterson?
I do, but I will say
Is he their ace?
Yeah, I guess he is their ace, because Ubaldo Jimenez is...
Not their ace.
He's not their ace, no. Once every 6 starts, he's their ace, and he looks great. But with Masterson, he's 7-2 on the year, and he started off so hot, striking everybody out. That was great. Then he hit a little bit of a rough patch. But his last 2 starts, he's looked excellent again. Right. Complete game shutouts, 11 strikeouts, all the great fantasy things that you want. But I will say, historically, with Justin Masterson, the thing that's given him a lot of problems, left-handed hitters. Always. Huge splits. Those splits are down this year. But I'm going to go with a bit of the historical data here.
He comes a little bit from the side. And
he does. He's 3/4.
Very easy to catch it.
He's 3/4. He shows the ball right away, and people know, and the lefties know what's coming. So against lineups with a lot of left-handed heavy hitters, or just left-handed hitters in general, I suppose, he's a pitcher you probably want to stay away from.
Justin Verlander.
I hear he's okay.
We don't often talk about the very obvious pitchers here, but this one we need to discuss him a little bit because he's all of a sudden not so obvious anymore as a lock to be one of the elite pitchers.
Yeah, he is. When you're on pace for 270 strikeouts, you're still an elite pitcher.
Not if you're giving up 16 runs in 12 innings, you're not.
It's a rough patch. I think
It's 3 starts in a row now. That's a little... I'm starting to think that maybe there's something wrong with him in terms of he's got something that he's not telling anybody. I heard you on the radio with Dr. Roto this week when he said something to you about somebody had a problem that it looked like him. It was mental.
He said it looked like it was a mental problem.
I don't know how you can look like
you can't see mental problems. It's tough.
So I don't know. He's never had a stretch like that to my knowledge in his career.
He has. I think we forget that
16 runs in 12 innings.
Yeah, Justin Verlander wasn't always the ace that we think of him being the year he won MVP. That was
hard to sustain yourself in the major leagues if you give it that.
Yeah, but put it this way, I have enough faith in Justin Verlander and his historic data and him just being awesome as a pitcher that he's going to work through this. Every pitcher goes through bumps during the course of the year. We're going to see, remember when Clayton Kershaw, during his 3rd, 5th, and 6th start, he gave up 3 runs in each of those starts, 5 innings.
Yes.
Not as bad, but look how he's doing now. Now he's back to throwing 8 innings, 1 run. Verlander's going to be the same way. If someone in your league doesn't think that's going to be the case, now's the time to buy. To me, he's still 1 or 1A.
Well, no, my point is not that he's not an elite pitcher, but he's been so bad. Do you think that there's an issue there? So whether it be an injury or something,
you can't tell. I'm not going to be able to predict injury. If they're saying there's no problem, then you have to treat it like there's no problem. Look,
he's facing the Pirates next, so if he goes out and if he gets pummeled again for a 4th consecutive time, if he throws up an 8 spot in 3 innings, you still not going to be concerned?
I mean, you have to be concerned, but I don't think it's anything. What are you going to do? Take Justin Verlander out of your lineup? You're not going to do that. You play your studs. That's why you have them on the team.
Well, at some point, I mean, his whip already has you in last place if you're in that category.
He does, but that's really it. He's still 5-4. He has 60 strikeouts and 59 innings. He's actually on pace to throw way too many innings.
69 strikeouts.
69 strikeouts, sorry. And his ERA is still 3.6, so everything's okay except for the whip. Once he gets his command back a little bit from these, if you isolate these 3 starts and look at his first part of the season, he's pitched great.
Well, that's why we didn't talk about him in the beginning. Well, how many times does he have to give up, like 5 runs in like 4 innings before you say, hey, wait a minute? I think he gave up 8 in one game.
7 in one game. That wasn't good.
No.
But, I mean, Darvish got rocked in that game, too. They were facing each other, and there was 20 total runs in the game.
I don't
Do you
know
have concerns about him, too?
baseball who gave up 16 runs in their last 12 2/3.
Oh, God. Bruce Birch did it.
And he's not in the major leagues anymore.
That's true.
And as you said, who the heck is Bruce Birch?
Exactly. He's some guy. He's some guy in the minors now. Look, don't worry about Justin Verlander. Unless there's an injury, he's going to be fine.